Oh, goodness gracious me. I'm a little scared.
I've been looking for you, looking for me. Your show is almost over. You gotta wait another week. Here we go. I've been holding out 'cause you're holding the key. Is it cool if I come over and see if you're into me?
Supernatural's great. I know it's supposed to be the story about two guys out chasing monsters, but it's not. It's a story about family.
The classic rock, the monster of the week, all of that. And I won't lie, the pretty doesn't hurt.
I knew that it was on the CW. I was like, oh gosh, it's gonna be a family show. But then it was more of like a blood and guts kind of horror movie.
Like season 1 scared the crap out of me, but I couldn't stop watching.
You got action, you got comedy, you got adventure, you got drama, you got mystery, you got everything in there.
And then when you see the brothers interact and you can see the sacrifices they're making.
More story about the greater good. It wasn't just like, hey, there's a monster, let's get him.
They're watching a show about family and about the relationships between characters that they care about.
You got some great villains on the show, and they're funny, and it's a cool show. And how can you not like two guys who drive a cool car? Come on, man.
It changed my perspective on geekdom a little bit and on like the idolization of celebrities. Because when I started watching Supernatural before conventions or anything, it was kind of just one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, there's hot guys and there's monsters, and I was the kid who always grew up with like, I loved bats and I loved Halloween, and then there's a show for for people that weren't kids that had all this great creepy stuff, so that kind of drew me in. And then the cute people were the bonus, but then you kind of realize that it's a little bit more for most people, and as I got more into the fandom, I realized, even for me, it became more. So coming to a convention for the first time was really, really big for me, because it gave me this realization that Supernatural is so much more than just the show. Supernatural is religion for most people. It's like they have it all over their homes and stuff, and then you get to pilgrimage from wherever you live for 2 or 3 days a year.
It really is a phenomenon, yeah, and it's the family of Supernatural performers and the fans. There is something unique about them, yeah.
When I got into Canada and I walked into the production office and they said, so have you signed up for a convention yet? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And they said, oh, just wait.
This was pretty unique. I mean, I think if you look at all the types of conventions for other shows, I mean, a lot of them have a lot of success in them too. Right? So we're certainly not the only successful one at the conventions, but I think there's a certain special relationship, particularly because Jared and Jensen really cultivated this a long time. Early on in the convention circuit, they did a lot of them, and they still continue to do them.
To have the kind of interactions that we get to have, it's inspirational to us, and it helps motivate us to keep going year after year, and I think, in my opinion, it's the greatest fuel we have.
There's an enormous subculture, this universe that exists around the TV show that is remarkably focused and powerful. These are the people that get Jared and Jensen on the cover of TV Guide. I mean, it's an incredibly passionate group of people who are loyal to the show in a way that I've never witnessed until.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Rich and I have both been acting for about 20 years, and so we've seen the business change a lot. And when we started out, this wouldn't have happened to a show in the late 90s.
Didn't have the internet connection to do it.
Didn't have internet. So now that with the Twitter universe, you can reach out to fans, and people on shows are actually reaching back. There's a connection going on, and the conventions are actually a manifestation of that connection that we've got going on.
And I just kind of assumed it was, like 100 people in lawn chairs, just folding card chairs, watching the guys, answer questions. I had no idea.
Nashville, LA, Toronto, Chicago, Vancouver, worldwide. I mean, if that support wasn't there to show Warner Brothers and the production company making the show, it probably wouldn't have held it last after season 1.
It's hard to be terribly scientific about it, but I feel like the relationship that we have with our fans, the Supernatural fans, is incredibly strong, and I think that part of that is because we we show up at conventions and we get to interact face to face with
I
them.
was like, oh yeah, I really wanted to go, but I couldn't afford the whole week, and then one day it was really even hard to get the cash together for me, and I didn't want my parents to pay for it because it was like my own thing. No, I freaked out. I think I hit the floor. I was so excited to go to this convention because it'd be my first one. This was kind of really real for me, and then kind of getting it sprung on me that I got to go was just kind of, I don't know, it was real, and then at the same time it was really euphoric. Just kind of the moment of like, oh God, it's happening, and it's real. So the wristbands were like every fan's golden ticket. Like the chocolate factory is yours when you get the wristband, and even if it's just like the one day one, you're still like ecstatic. And then I can't imagine how it would feel getting like the lanyard with like golden pass, because that's just, oh my God, you're in the club. You're there and you have something that unifies everybody and everybody is wearing one.
When you walk in the door, you're immediately surrounded by people who have a common interest that you can immediately share. So that creates an immediate friendship.
Creations has those great posters that were like, we have the right to not serve demons. So it's the first thing I saw as you go up the escalator, and I kind of turned and there was a table where you check in and then these posters, and there were people taking pictures of them. And I kind of thought it was like, it was a little fantastic because I didn't expect it, but it was like a little inside joke. Like if you didn't watch Supernatural and you just happened to wander up this escalator, you would just look around and be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go back downstairs because that's freaking weird. A whole bunch of like little old ladies and stuff get off their cruise ship and they're wandering around the convention center, and there's just a sign that's like demons with an arrow, like this way. What hit me hard was the diversity, because like in my brain, when I first started watching Supernatural, which was when I was 16, I only had 2 other people that I knew that watched it besides people on the internet, and they were a year older than me and they were teenage girls. So in my brain, that was kind of the demographic that I saw for people that watched Supernatural were teenagers, mostly female, the fangirl type, geeky, and then I like look into this crowd of people, and there's moms with their kids, which I thought was fantastic, because then it's like you're sharing the family business there. What blew my mind is I saw like middle-aged men, like parents, like people that had full-time jobs and responsibilities, and they were here.
To have a daughter that has gotten on board within the last actually year to become a Supernatural fan has been pretty neat, because she's been basically passing it on to her friends as well.
Okay, so we're here in Las Vegas for Vegas Con, a Supernatural convention.
Have you been to a lot of conventions other than this one?
This is my first.
Oh.
This is my first one. Yeah.
Yesterday Matt said that he took her con virginity, so
I'm very happy with that, actually.
It was always our dream to come to this convention, and we finally made it happen, so we're super excited about it.
This is my very first convention. Right. Well, because I've been obsessed for a while, and I have some friends who I wanted to go with, and they were like, you'll ruin the illusion if you go to a conference. And yeah, they told me I'd ruin the illusion.
Really?
So I finally found a friend who would go with me, and I was like, I don't care about the illusion. I want to meet these folks. You know, I want to take a picture with Jared and Jensen because they're hot.
Did it ruin the illusion?
Not at all. It actually made it better. Like when I'm watching the show, I'll be like, oh, I talked to him. Oh my gosh.
I was terrified the first convention I went to. I was absolutely terrified. I was thinking, why the hell did I bid on a gold ticket at an auction? This was the stupidest idea because I'm so shy. I'm so nervous. This was a terrible idea. Fast forward to 2 days later when I got there, it was incredible. I felt welcomed by the fans and especially by the actors, which really surprised me. I remember the first person I talked to was Rob Benedict. I talked to him for about 5 minutes, and I was amazed that they cared. They seemed to care so much, not just as a fan, but they cared about you as a person.
They come from all over the world, and it's never really just what you think. It's never really the cliche. When you think Supernatural convention, it's so much bigger than face value. Walking into the vendor's room was kind of another huge, a little heart attack too, because like I want everything and I have no money whatsoever. There's freaking jewelry that's themed for characters. There's t-shirts, you can buy freaking headshots from every single actor to get them signed. Jodie comes from the States to sell her merchandise.
discovering the show made me just jump into my creativity, and as a result, I've got a new career, and I've now gotten the courage to pursue another dream of mine, which is becoming a teacher. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without being a Supernatural fan. I would not have found that in myself.
She sells necklaces and wristbands and rings and a whole shebang, earrings, and they're all Supernatural themed. And they all have like this amazing amount of thought put into them. I think this one is actually the Kim Rhodes necklace, which I thought was really cool because it's not just like characters, but it's also the actors. So the merch room was kind of like another mind-blowing moment because the only merchandise I'd ever seen before a convention was the stuff you have to order online. Going to the convention kind of brings everything a lot closer to home, and it kind of sucks you in a little bit, and seeing that this stuff is like real and tangible. It's weird because I'm talking about like t-shirts with Jensen Ackles' face on it, but it was tangible. It was tangible. Right next to the merch room was where the photos were being taken, and that was really intense for a simple thought of just getting a photo taken, because the lineup was like coming out of the photo room, down the hallway, and then around the corner, and there must have been maybe 300 people or more in that lineup. Jared was my first one, my first photo op. That was kind of like euphoric, almost. I remember coming out of the photo op and I was vibrating. And I didn't even think I'd react like that. In my brain, I was like, I'm cool as a cucumber, I can do this. And then you step out and you're like, oh my god, like, I touched somebody who's famous, like, and you're shaking all over and you're like, I think it was kind of like a good 5 minutes of me, I started shaking and I was like, oh my god, that was really cool, that was really cool. And then when I get excited, I start rambling, as you guys have seen. And I just started going, and then next thing I know, I was crying, and I was like, I touched him! I touched Jared Padalecki! And I was like, oh my god! Oh my god! And it took me like a good half an hour to like, okay, and calm down. But it was like this kind of moment of like, he's a real human being! I've touched him, and his waist is like this big around! Like, I went in for a hug for the photo op, and like I could like bring my arms all the way around him. Like it was so funny. And thinking about it like now, the things that I freaked out about the most are probably like the most stalkerish sounding things. Like his waist is this big around, he smells amazing, and he has a really good taste in clothing. Like oh god. It was so cool. It's a huge creative outlet for people. At Supernatural conventions, there's Misha Day, where it's Misha Collins comes in, everybody pulls out their Castiel cosplays, and it's like, it's a crazy thing to watch. It's amazing, and it kind of allows people to step out of their shells, especially people who are super shy. And a lot of the cosplayers too usually don't cosplay within their gender, which is a wonderful thing about cosplay. Is cosplay has no body type, cosplay has no race, cosplay has no gender. If I wanted to go out and put on like a Kevin cosplay from Supernatural, that would be fine. Nobody's gonna bug me because I'm wearing a short wig because I'm a girl. Nobody's gonna care because you're in cosplay. You don't have to be yourself. You can if you want, but when you put on that costume and when you put on your makeup and when you put on your fake blood and you go to a convention, it's kind of like, it's like a get out of jail free card. Everybody wants that one day where you don't have to be you, and you get to leave all your problems behind and all of your insecurities kind of melt away because you're not you in that moment. You're a superhero. You're Dean Winchester. You're whatever you want to be, and it's amazing. I hear the sounds emanating from my radio. Loud and Swain are freaking awesome. They show up at every convention. They throw a concert for the fans, and they're one of those bands that like could be all over the world touring, but Rob, I think, has kind of chosen to keep his music a little quieter, to keep it for people that kind of like learned about him through Supernatural, through his acting. And it's almost kind of like a little bit of a secret to people outside the Supernatural fandom, is the Supernatural fandom has a band. They have this band that's so cool that comes to every convention, throws a concert, does the theme music for your whole week at the convention, and like, I don't know, it's just It's really cool. We have this glorious secret that we want to share with the world, and it's Loud and Suede.
And now you've waited too long, and it's just another rock.
Conventions are a new beginning for most people, and me being a con virgin at the time, and it was kind of a realization that this is like Mecca. Like, it's a place, you know, people pilgrimage from wherever they live, whether to go to DallasCon or VegasCon or VanCon, to kind of be with their people. You get kind of like, you go up this escalator and you just suddenly get scooped up by these people, and especially if you're alone, if it's your first time at a convention, they just kind of like, they'll walk you through it, they'll show you where to be and who to talk to.
The first time Jared and Jensen get on stage, they always ask who's new, and they welcome them to the family.
Most of the time people who go to these conventions don't have a place to stay. So they can put like an arm out to their internet community, the internet fandom of Supernatural, or whatever they're watching, and go, hey, is there anybody out there who's willing to share a hotel room? Is there anybody out there who has a couch that I can sleep on for 2 days? And like bam, 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 you get offers, and these people are they're so warm and welcoming, and they take you in because it doesn't really matter where you come from or who you are, but you all are in love with the same thing. And it's extremely unifying. Like, I remember I talked to one girl named Gabby, and she was in like full Dean Winchester cosplay. She had like a gun hilt on her thigh, and it was great. And she was like, yeah, for my birthday, my friend set up a GoFundMe account to send me here. And she was from the States, so that included like flight, hotel, convention pass for the whole 4 days. And that is a lot of money, but thinking that you have somebody in your fandom and your family who's thinking in their brain like, hey, let's do something for this person because they can't go, is hugely generous, even if it isn't their own money. But other people gave to this, other people who didn't know Gabby but knew that she loved this and needed to do this in her life, and they just gave. It's insane. Like, think about it. You gave a stranger $20 to go to a convention to go have fun, and it's just kind of like, wow.
These cons have been going on for years, and I always kind of poo-pooed them. I was like, I'd done, mini Comic-Cons for films and stuff, and they'd asked me to do the separate Supernatural cons a couple times, and to me it was, I had no idea what it was, I guess. I mean, really, truthfully, that's it. I had no clue what it could be. Maybe, sign a couple autographs, and I was always busy working, and I was like, how much can it possibly be? Because, you work out at Comic-Con and you do panels, and it's not dictated by fans. The fans aren't the ones asking the questions. There's a moderator up there. There's not a lot of interaction. And I finally this year I got the opportunity to go to the Las Vegas Con. Maybe one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. The first time I saw it and really walked out on that stage in Las Vegas with Jensen was one of I got emotional. It was crazy. That the love that I felt was insane, and I hope I gave it back. There was no velvet rope between us and the audience. You know what I mean? It was a true interaction, and to see how special that is for this fandom. The tears and the stories and how much Supernatural has changed their lives or gotten them through things that were difficult. That's really touching shit, and it blew my mind. Yeah, it's a special group, for sure.
It was England that really hit me because there was like 2,500 people in a room at the same time. And as soon as he stepped on that stage, everyone's just like yelling. And it was the weirdest, I don't know, it's such a strange sensation, it's so alien to you. And even now, it still doesn't really make that much sense.
Just finding the connection in an environment that's safe is really amazing. I don't cosplay, I don't go out, and what I try to explain to people is, a lot of my friends don't really get this. They're like, so you do what? You go to do you dress up as your character?
The original Star Trek and the Beatles, I had my own fandoms. I did a lot of things that the Supernatural fandom does. I understand the passion, I understand the commitment, I understand that kind of love you have for something where it's in your head all the time.
I don't think I'll ever feel like a rock star the way that I do at a convention, because there's thousands of people and the way that they cheer and clap. I mean, I just feel like I'm this middle-aged character actor that did, 3 episodes on Supernatural, and suddenly I've just been embraced with so much love.
There's something about the geek that comes to a convention that we're all geeks together, and that's allowed. We know who we are, and people who are in the SPN fandom know who they are. Not necessarily the cool kids. This is our club, and we get to be who we want to be.
You're right. That interaction is something unusual, particularly for TV fans. I mean, when are you going to get to meet the stars of your favorite show in that way, and also all the other ways you can at a convention? It just doesn't happen. But with Supernatural, these stars are so nice and so interactive.
If you ever get the chance to go to a convention, it doesn't really matter what fandom you're in. If you're going there for Orange is the New Black or Supernatural or freaking Scooby-Doo, like whatever you love, go to a convention, because if you ever feel like you're alone in something you love, you are so wrong. Because if you go to this convention, it doesn't matter if 10 people show up, it doesn't matter if 1 million people show up. There are going to be other people out there that love what you love, and you're going to find them. So go to a convention. Do it!